Welcome to the Plant Grow REAP podcast.
Welcome to Plant Grow REAP. I'm Chelsea, and today we're going to get to know some of the team members behind the scenes at Aintree Group a little bit more. So I am sitting here with Simone, who is our Wealth Operations Manager. And basically, we want to get to know you a little bit more, share a little bit about your background at Aintree Group and the company. So welcome to Plant Grow REAP.
Thank you very much for having me.
That is all right. We'll get started with just saying, could you share a little bit about your background and upbringing and how it influenced your career choices that led you to Aintree Group?
So I grew up as one of four in my family. I have two sisters and a younger brother. Both of my parents were quite working class. They both migrated over from Scotland and Germany, respectively. So getting back into their fields in a new country was quite a lot of work, and so I feel that work ethic has been passed down from not only my parents but also my grandparents.
Yep.
So that's a little bit sort of about my family and my upbringing, and I think progressively throughout my career at Aintree Group, I've moved through being a client service coordinator into an EA position into my current role, which is wealth operations management. So I feel that's kind of inclusive of how I was brought up and my family's work ethic, I suppose.
Yeah, I think as someone who has seen you move through all of those positions at Aintree Group, I know one of the themes has definitely been your work ethic, but also your initiative. I know you moved into the executive assistant role during COVID. We were all working from home. Things were pretty chaotic, and an opportunity opened up that was going to have to be filled pretty quickly. And you stepped up to the plate and said, hey, I'm here. I'm happy to take this on. And walked in, flourished, did an amazing job. So I definitely see that from an outside perspective, that work ethic definitely comes through, but that initiative as well. I think all of us in the team at that time were really impressed seeing that, because it was a tough time personally and professionally for everyone.
Yeah.
And to see you take that on during COVID completely remotely was pretty incredible.
It's very interesting hearing it from someone else's point of view, because how that EA position came about was so innocuous. It was not me being like, I want this job, pick me, I think I'd be really good at it. It was more so knowing that the maternity cover that we had moved on, and it was just a very quick message to Shane via Teams being like, hey, if you need a hand while you look for someone to fill this position, let me know, because I'm happy to help where I can. And then it turned into hey, I just need help for 2 hours a week. Do you think you can find 2 hours a day? 2 hours a day. Do you think you can find that for me? I'm like, yeah, I could probably find 2 hours a day.
Yep.
And then we finished that call, and in my head I'm thinking, there is no way that the managing director of this company only requires me for 2 hours a day.
Oh yeah, that was never going to be.
He's completely pulled the wool over my eyes here, and lo and behold, it was not 2 hours a day.
No,
it was more like 5 hours a day and 2 hours for all my other work. But we got there in the end. So
well, you made it work, and you made it work well. And I think even just the offer of the help speaks to that you actually gave, which was to just give a helping hand. That speaks to your contribution to the company and your work ethic and everything like that. So now you're in a new role. So you're the Wealth Operations Manager. Tell me a little bit about the key responsibilities of that role and how it's different from what you've done previously.
I wouldn't really say it's all that much different. It's sort of a combination of all of the administration roles and the EA roles sort of merged together with a couple of other responsibilities thrown in.
Yeah.
So all of the admin work that I had previously been doing, so scanning, booking appointments, phone calls, etc., to then management of inboxes, management of appointments, that sort of thing in the EA role. I still do all of that, but then there's the added IT responsibilities and making sure all of that's up and running for both wealth and finance, all of the invoicing, I can't think of anything else because...
Well, I know wrangling the director of the wealth business unit and
Yes.
our finance and lending manager as well. I'm sure that's a part of it as well, managing their time
Yes.
and their inboxes.
Yes, and ensuring they're at the mandatory masterclasses that we do hold at internally within Aintree Group is proving to be a little bit more difficult than I'd care to believe it should be. So,
Fair enough. Well, it is still relatively new. How long have you been in the role now?
I believe midway through March, so that's probably coming up to 6 months.
Yeah. So, learning and growing as we go. And I know, just for context as well, the finance business unit has only existed for about half that time, and the wealth business unit has been up and running for a little over a year. So we're all learning and growing together, that's for sure, and I'm sure that everything will settle in nicely. At Aintree Group in general, there's never a dull moment. We're always growing, always evolving. So I guess it makes sense that the roles are doing that as well.
Yes.
So what does a typical week in your role look like for you?
Is it odd to say that it's not a typical week any week? It's constantly
No, that
changing.
makes sense to me. So I work in marketing, so there is no such thing as a typical week. I
Yeah,
definitely
it's
get that.
constantly
No, that's completely fair enough. I understand that 100%.
No, it's highly different. So it depends on how many client appointments we have, whether or not I'm required in those client appointments, onboarding new clients, setting up accounts for clients. It's very, very client-centric. So depending on what client work we have going on during the week, that makes my week, so to say. So if we don't have any client appointments, that gives me my time to do all the invoices, do all the IT in the background, and sort of just have a nice baseline to start the next week. The clients kind of throw that off a bit, which is lovely because I do like the change and the challenge, but that's where the stress can creep in.
Yeah. Well, how do you handle that stress and maintain sort of a positive mindset? Because there's a lot of time-sensitive documents and things like that as part of your role as well.
Yes, specifically with finance, with all of the home loans and whatnot that we refinance and put together for clients. I think I handle stress by, if I'm very, very stressed, I try and imagine, I take a very, very deep breath and I imagine, or visualize is a better word, my lungs filling up, and I feel my ribs expand as my lungs fill up, and I feel that coming all the way up sort of to my shoulders. Yeah. And I hold that for a few seconds, and I do that 2 or 3 times, and I just feel the air coming in and going out and just focus on that.
Yeah.
For that moment in time. So that's sort of my mindfulness on a Monday and Wednesday. I think I've got it scheduled in my calendar.
Beautiful.
And so I envisage that, and that sort of just allows me to sort of come back to a base level, which is nice.
Yeah.
And then just sort of having a chat with some colleagues and whatnot. It's nice to come in the morning and get a coffee and just have a laugh with some people in the kitchen, and I find it's a really nice way to start the week or the day by having a laugh and setting that positive mindset for the day.
Yeah, that makes sense. As you were talking through your breathing, I was actively filling up my lungs. I feel very relaxed now. That was great. A good reminder for everyone
involved. I'm glad you
involved.
appreciate it.
Take a nice deep breath wherever you are. So in terms of that, starting the day out positively, chatting with the team, is that something you enjoy most about your job, the company culture and the team members?
Yes, I think the culture is one of the things that drew me to Aintree Group in the first place almost 5 years ago. And it's nice that it's still a relevant factor.
Yeah.
And not just a relevant factor, it's a huge factor. Everyone that comes into the business, I make an effort to everyone makes an effort to get to know them. But I sort of ask them just how did you get into how did you get into Aintree Group? What did you enjoy most about the company and blah, blah, blah. And without a doubt, one of the top 2 things they always mention is culture. Yeah. So it's nice to know that it's not just the existing employees, it's all of the new employees coming in as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's genuinely so good to hear from new people coming in and people as part of the team. It's nice to know that it's other people's experience as well. Do you have a particularly favorite memory or funny moment that you would like to share or is appropriate to share on the podcast?
I think it's appropriate. I don't know whether the managing director will think it's appropriate, and I'll apologise in advance, Shane. But
this should be good.
Not too long. So at Aintree Group, we have a lot of internal events, and we always have lunches and after work drinks and all that sort of stuff. And this particular day, we were having a barbecue for our lunch, and I can't remember what event it was for, but for whatever reason, the barbecue that we have at the office was not cleaned properly the prior time that we had used it. And so Shane was cleaning the barbecue, burning off everything else that was on the grill. And it started to smoke quite a bit, and there were a couple of flames. And so he had the hood closed, and he's like, just let it do its thing. And that's it, completely fine. But what we didn't realise was where the barbecue was situated, it was directly below a fire alarm.
Yep.
And so the legal team downstairs heard the fire alarm. Nobody upstairs heard the fire alarm. So we've had that checked and we're all fine now.
Yeah, that was very concerning that the fire alarm for the whole building only goes off in the lobby. That's no help whatsoever.
No, not at all. And so we had, I think, 2 or 3 fire engines rock up, and all the fireys came in, and we were very, very apologetic, and we had no idea. And so that barbecue has been kept very clean.
Yes,
since that
very
event.
Clean, and now right on the edge of the balcony,
yes,
as close to the fresh air as possible. And it was actually really funny. We used it recently for another team event, and completely unrelated to the use of the barbecue, but there was a fire engine parked outside the office about an hour before we started cooking, and there was a few jokes passed around that they were there preemptively ready to go for our barbecue lunch.
Yes.
So now, we've become a bit infamous at the Camberwell Fire Department, potentially. So is that your favourite moment at Aintree Group, or the first that comes to mind?
I think that's probably the funniest that I can recall. But I think my favourite moment is just seeing everyone and having that genuine chat. And there are some very, very fond friendships that I've made at Aintree Group that I will keep for a lifetime. And I think that's one of the best things about coming into work, being able to not only come into a place that you call work, but also come into a place where you have genuine friendships, and you can, regardless of whether or not you're having a bad day or it's just like a down mood day or anything like that, and knowing that you have people there to pick you up is really great. I feel like that's a terrible word to describe it, but it's fantastic. Honestly, I don't feel like you could ask for anything more in a workplace.
Yeah, I think that's really special when you can say that you've got those genuine friendships at work. I think it really makes the whole experience better, and like you said, pick you up when things are challenging, and just enjoy the ride when things are going well. Because
if you don't have that, then there's the whole, I'm not feeling the best, I won't come into work today. It's like no, I want to go in, I want to see these people because I know they're going to make me feel better. Yeah.
And that is, like you said, like a fantastic thing to have.
Yes.
In terms of outside of work, passions, hobbies, what do you like to do when you're not in the office and running the wealth department?
I believe I would be lying if I said that I was constantly going out and going to bars and pubs and all that sort of thing. I spend a lot of time at home with my husband and my dogs.
That sounds like a lovely way to spend your time. Well, unwind and recharge, that's part of it as well.
Yes, but no, that's where I find an immense amount of joy and just happiness, is just having a cuddle on the couch with the dogs and my husband, or going out for a walk for a coffee and just watching the dogs run wild and whatnot. But recently my siblings, they've all had children as well. So I spend a lot of time with my nieces and nephews, and I find an immense amount of joy from them as well. It's just amazing to see them discover like a leaf. I'll just spend an hour just like carrying one of the children, and they'll just be pointing. And so I will just escort them around the garden, and we'll look at flowers and leaves and twigs and whatever you would find in a garden. And they find so much joy out of it. And you forget that as an adult, and it's just sort of like, this is, yes, it's a lovely plant, but we don't need to be standing here for 10 minutes. Yeah. But it's everything to them, and I love that.
Well, I certainly love all the really cute photos and videos that you bring into the office to share with the rest of us. So it's much appreciated as on our end as well. What about like favorite books, podcasts, TV shows? I know you are an avid football fan, like Western Bulldogs supporter, but also just football in general. Like you watch all the games.
Yes, much to my husband's disappointment. Yes, he gets very upset with me during the season because he's like, "Oh, can't we watch something else?" I'm like, "No,
footy's on.
You can go watch something else, please." I don't really have a favorite book. I just enjoy books in general. I know that we have exchanged book recommendations, and I think we both enjoy the same kind of book.
Yes. No, that's really been lovely. Great to have, a little bit of an unofficial book swap happening with your family as well. I know we've got your sisters and your mum involved in that too, which is good.
And it also saves us some money, which is a nice bonus.
100%.
And then podcasts, I think, I've got a few that I listen to. I won't go into too much detail about them because I'm not sure how work appropriate they are, but one of them is called Tony and Ryan. One of them is called We Mean Well. One of them is called Sometimes Funny, Sometimes Awkward.
Yep.
And I feel like there's probably a couple of others, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. Oh, I enjoy Shameless immensely.
That's a popular one.
Yeah, yep. And they also do a book club one, so a lot of my book recommendations I do get from them as well. So
excellent. No, obviously we're a big fan of podcasts in general, but it's a great way to be able to drive to work and get ready for the day and start off, like you said, on that nice positive mindset for the rest of the day as well. And do you have any books or podcasts that sort of inform your career or the work side of things, or is it more just for personal enjoyment?
A lot of it is for personal enjoyment, but that does also creep into the sort of professional side. So one of the ones that I listen to, Tony and Ryan, one of the things that they're big on is just start the blog. Yeah. And it doesn't need to be a blog. It's just do the thing.
Yep.
So whether that be a blog, whether that be changing jobs, whether that be moving into a new position, it's just do the thing.
Yep.
Because you never know what you don't do.
Yep.
And so that's something that was front of mind for me when I took my current role, when it was proposed to me in February. And I was terrified.
Yeah.
It was a brand new position. I had no one that I could go to be like, oh, how did you do this? Or, oh, but what does this mean? And how does this work in with that? And I thought about it, and I was told that I didn't need to give an answer until after my wedding. So my wedding was early March.
Yeah.
And so this was a conversation early Feb. And so I had a good month to think about it. And I had I had an answer back to Shane and Andrea the next day because I could not think of anything else.
Yeah.
It was like as soon as someone puts something like that to you, and I don't know if it's the same for other people, but it's front of mind. I can't think of anything else, regardless of what else I've got going on.
Including a wedding.
And the stress of planning a wedding and being a month out from that. I couldn't think of anything else. And so I was on the phone to my husband, well, my then fiance, my older sister, who I go to a lot for career advice and just any advice in general. And so I had a response back the next day, which was probably not all that surprising to Shane and Andrea, because I feel like Andrea's probably the same in that mindset.
Yep.
But so just do the thing, start the blog, take the promotion, do the thing that scares you.
Yep.
Is all that I could advise.
100%. So what is the best piece of life advice that you've received? Is it from your sister, or is it the start the blog?
I think it's the do what scares you.
Yeah. Do 100%. What scares you.
Yep.
No, I think it's a good one. You never know how it will lead, and the worst that can happen is that it doesn't work out, but at least you tried.
Yeah. And even if you do fail at it, that's how you're going to get better. So do the thing that scares you, make mistakes. And honestly, I feel like that's how I've gotten to where I am.
Yep.
By making mistakes, by taking the leap.
I think it's excellent advice. We talked a little bit about what you do to wind down. What does a perfect day off look like for you?
A perfect day off would be sleeping in past 7 a.m., which is incredibly rare, which I'm very disappointed about. A coffee in bed, having a cuddle with the dogs, going for a walk, seeing my nieces and nephews. It's very, very basic stuff, but it fills my cup so immensely. It's incredible. You could do it. It doesn't even need to be doing anything. Like, it could be watching them just roll around on the floor.
Yep.
They've learned how to roll over. They've learned how to pull themselves up.
Yep.
And the smile that you get from just like seeing them learn something new is just incredible.
Yeah. I mean, that's not the simple stuff. It's the important stuff. Families are the important stuff.
Yeah, well,
life.
for a 6-month-old, yes, pulling yourselves up is the huge thing
It is
that they've
the huge
achieved
thing.
that week.
Yeah, I don't remember learning how to do it, but I feel like it was a big deal at the time.
Yes.
And I'm glad that everyone is it would be great to have everyone getting behind you. Imagine if we do that as adults every time someone did something really
Yes,
cool.
every time you got up from your desk,
Yeah.
just like, well done, you pulled
Everyone was
yourself up.
really excited for you. That'd be great. Finally, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. I am a big believer, having gone to uni and been terrible at it. You don't need to go to uni to have a successful career.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to have a degree. You don't need to be top of your class. There are so many different avenues for people. There's diplomas, there's just experience. I mean, I went to uni and I got my degree, and it took me, I think, 4.5 years to do a 3-year degree. I failed so many subjects and questioned whether I should continue going through the last 4 units that I needed to complete. And I did it because I'd done 3 years, so I may as well do the last year and a half.
All in already,
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think my degree has gotten me to where I am today. I think it's purely just experience and getting your foot in the door.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite timely, because I know that year 12 exams are happening at the moment. So don't put too much stress on yourself. You don't need your ATAR. It's only important for the next 3 months.
Yep.
After then, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, no one asks about it.
No.
What, like, afterwards, I think everyone asks in that moment, and then that's it.
And even if they do ask,
it's not relevant.
They don't matter.
No.
If they're asking about your ATAR, go somewhere else.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think that's good advice for your younger self. But I mean, obviously everything's turned out really well, and we're grateful that the degree and everything since has led you to us, because you're a fantastic part of the team. It's amazing to have you be part of Aintree Group in all the roles that you've taken on, and personally as well, just having you be part of the team and a friend is absolutely fantastic. So I'm glad that you did the degree and it took forever and you ended up with us afterwards, because all things have led to this moment. But
everything happens for a reason.
Exactly. So thank you for sharing so much about yourself and your, I'm going to say journey, which our managing director hates, but your journey at Aintree Group and your career. It's been great to learn more about you. There were things that I didn't know, so I've learned new things too, which is great. But yeah, thank you for sharing and for being here on Plank Grow REIT.
Thank you for having me.